welcome to the lower body foam rolling class. Foam rolling is a really fantastic tool for athletes and for anybody who has any goals for range of motion or flexibility, but not for the typical reasons people might associate with foam rolling. A lot of times people think that foam rolling is useful to break up scar tissue or to release adhesions, and it's not really quite so physical as that. It's more about creating a connection between our nervous system and our bodies. A lot of times our brains will hold on to certain patterns and habits of tension because it believes that your body needs protecting in that area. So what foam rolling does is it asks the brain to send more awareness to particular areas of the body, and it asks it to begin to notice if it feels safe in that area. So as you feel this slow softening of tissue next to a foam roller, or as you're working with your lacrosse ball, what you might be feeling isn't necessarily the tissue melting away or fascia slowly unraveling. It's really the brain telling the body, oh, you're safe there. You can go a little further now. So it's training your nervous system to have more availability in its range. Let's try a little bit of it now. Take your lacrosse ball, and if you don't have a lacrosse ball, a tennis ball works just fine. I've even used a pool cue before, so anything small and spherical will probably work. We're going to put our lacrosse ball on the mat, and we're going to begin just by rolling our feet. So you can put both hands on your hips, or if you're still working on your balance, you can use chairs on both sides as well. And we're going to begin with just a few pulses at the arch here. As I pulse, I'm noticing my toes naturally curling over the ball and the knuckles naturally popping up toward my face. It's almost as if I'm just reminding my foot of its arch. After a few pulses, I'm going to plant my heel on the ground and windshield wipe from left to right across the ball mounds of my toes, beginning to feel if any area needs a little extra time and attention, and then I can just pause there and breathe into that area, allowing my nervous system to get used to an unfamiliar pressure in this area. After a few wipes from left to right along the ball mounds of the toes, I'm going to take the ball along the arch from big toe down to heel. I'm going to roll that ball all along the first metatarsal. That's the long bone behind the toe. I'm going to roll the second toe now, all the way from ball mound of the toe to top of the heel. Third metatarsal, fourth metatarsal, now pinky edge side. Still pausing anytime I feel an area needs a little extra attention. Reverse those rays, fourth metatarsal, third, second, and first, hooking from toe to heel. Pause on the toes, and now we're going to windshield wipe from left to right along the heel. I'm going to scoot the ball back so you can see it a little bit more in the screen. Planting on my toes, and then giving yourself a little twist from right to left along the heel, working that ball from bottom of heel to top of heel. Now step back on the ball, gripping it with your toes. We're going to play a little game. We're going to try to grip that ball with our toes and lift it up. For most of us, this might not be in our world of possibilities today, but still we'll keep working on that tensile strength of the toes, getting them to curl inward and strengthen. Our toes weaken after so much time in shoes, or they become overcrowded, and especially in heels, when ladies wear heels and it dips our toes toward the floor and mashes them together. So we actually forget how to use our toes in dynamic ways. So we're going to try to grip the ball now to increase that strength there. Right now I'm going to grip the ball with my toes, and I'm going to step forward with my other leg. If balance is something you're still working on, use those chairs for support, or do this next to a wall. Now I'm going to plantar flex my toes into the ball. So it's almost like I'm pressing on a gas pedal. Now I feel a really nice stretch along my calf, all the way from the top of the calf, gastrocs, top of the gastrocs, all the way down into the belly of the soleus and the Achilles. I can angle my toes and see what gets me a better stretch, and just hang out and breathe there. Now we're going to step back, let that ball rest for a moment, and just feel the difference between the right foot and the left foot. We haven't really broken up any fascia. We want that plantar fascia to be nice and strong, but now you might feel a greater lightness, a greater versatility in the right foot than the left, because now you've taken your nervous system and you've had it focus so much on that one foot that now it feels like it has more range of motion, more capacity. All right, we're going to do the same thing on the left side. So we're going to begin with just a few pulses right at the center of your arch. And then we're going to begin rolling along the ball mounds of the toes, windshield wiping from left to right. So the heel comes down, but the weight is still forward toward the ball mounds of the toes so that you can really feel that ball connecting. When you're ready, we're going to begin creating rays along the arches. So we're going to begin along the inseam of the arch, along the first metatarsal of the big toe, slowly working all the way to the top of the heel. Then moving to second metatarsal, all the way down the center of the arch, all the way back toward the heel. I like to really use the pressure of the ball moving from toe all the way back to heel to encourage that fascia back toward the heel. We notice in plantar fascia, the tissue will pull away from the heel bone and it'll create a lot of sensitivity, especially at the calcaneus, which is the heel bone itself. So now we're pulling that tissue, we're encouraging it back toward the heel. And we're going to create our rays all the way back out from pinky toe side to big toe side again, spending any time in step spots that we need. I often find that along the first metatarsal, along the inseam of the arch, I need a little extra love, and I might hang out there and just breathe into that area. Shift your weight into your toes, windshield wipe that heel from left to right. Working the ball all the way from the top of the heel to the bottom of the heel. Bring the ball back to the toes, grip with the toes, see if you can lift that ball up. Really squeeze with pinky toe and big toe together, creating a suction cup lift, waking those toes up. All right, now we're going to step forward with our right leg, keeping the grip of the toes on the left foot, and then plantar flex your left foot into the ground like you're stepping on a gas pedal. Now I'm feeling the back of my leg light up. I'm feeling that calf begin to stretch. If you're not feeling it, really press those toes down and micro bend the back knee. After a few breaths here, take a step back, put the ball aside, give both feet a few little pumps, and notice what lightness you feel in your feet now. Take a seat, put your ball aside, but it's not going to go far. We're going to put it right in between these two blocks so it doesn't roll away. And I'm going to shift the camera down just a bit so that you can see our floor work now. And still, it likes to roll away. All right, stay. All right, we're going to begin with a butterfly stretch. So you are going to rest all the way back on the mat and use your stack of pillows or your blocks or your stack of blankets, and you're going to prop them right on the outsides of your knees. If this is not enough of a stretch for you, you're welcome to do this without the blocks or without any support at all. But the goal here is to untuck your pelvis so that your tailbone descends to the floor. So that now I have a nice lumbar curve. I'm going to pick my shoulders up, rest my shoulder blades back and down. And now my back is lifting up from the earth. Take the heels of your hands, this lower part of the fleshy part of your hand, and hook the heel of your hand at the tops of your thighs. Press your thigh bones away from you. fingers angled toward the tops of the knees. Inhale, back into the mat, letting your rib cage expand on all sides. Exhale, straighten your arms down into the tops of your thighs and press your thigh bones away from you. You should feel a gentle decompression of your lumbar spine here. One more deep breath. And then on the exhale, you can give yourself a little massage all the way down the sides of the hips. We're preparing the lower body now for a lot of the great stretch work we're about to do. Clamshell your right knee over towards your left. Put your blocks aside. Grab your ball. Now, with both knees on the floor, you can use your hand to start to feel for the sacrum. The sacrum is at the very bottom of your spine. It's a triangular bone right here at the base of your spine. And so you're going to start to feel for the edges of that triangle, the border where the meaty part meets the bone. Once you have a sense of where that bone is, you're going to place the ball right on the outside of it so that it's pulling the tissue, the meat, away from the bone. This is where the piriformis attaches, and it's one of the best places to really get into the piriformis. So now we're going to place that ball right there along the lateral border and then plant your hips back on the mat. With feet, soles of feet down on the mat, I can now tuck and untuck my pelvis, rolling that ball along the lateral border of the sacrum, feeling for sensitive spots, stuck spots. You could even let it descend all the way down toward the tailbone, tucking and untucking the pelvis, breathing into those areas that really need it. And when you're ready, switch to the other side. We already know where the lateral border of our sacrum is, so we're not going to worry about finding it with our hands. We'll put the ball right on the outside of that sacrum, pulling away from the sacrum toward the musculotendinous attachments. Tucking and untucking the pelvis, maybe shifting the hips from right to left, allowing that ball to travel the lateral border of the sacrum all the way down toward the tailbone even. When I find something nice, I might just shift my weight right over the ball and allow myself to breathe into this area. Notice, as you breathe, do these painful or sensitive spots slowly start to feel just like pressure as the nervous system relaxes. Might feel like a softening or a release. That's what we're aiming for. Lift your hips, put the ball aside, roll over to your right hand side, push yourself up, and now we're going to grab our foam roller. Put the foam roller underneath your knees. I like to start right at about mid-thigh here, planting both of my thigh bones right over the foam roller, and now I can lift myself up with my arms and roll from my sits bones all the way down to my knees. This might be enough for you. If this takes a little bit too much strength, you're always welcome to put one foot down and just roll one leg at a time. Now, if this isn't quite enough for you, and just rolling hamstrings doesn't feel like it's getting quite enough pressure, you can cross right foot over left and angle your weight into the left hamstring. So now I'm shifting my hips over to the left-hand side and rolling just the left hamstring. I can even start to focus the foam roller on particular areas of my hamstring. So if I really angle my knees over to the left, I can get the biceps femoris, which is that lateral hamstring that's responsible for a lot of external rotation. It tends to be a very overloaded muscle. So you might want to spend a little extra time here. Or you could shift your hips a little over the right, still keeping the pressure on the left leg to get the inseam of the left leg. That's the semimembranosus and semitendinosus hamstrings. Even some of the adductors here as you bend the knees. Swap legs, left foot over right, and you can roll that right hamstring as well. Angling the hips to find the area of the backs of the legs that really need it most. Make sure to come all the way up to that sits bone. The more I press my feet down and my pelvis up, the more of a stretch I'm going to get. More of a loaded stretch, the more of a muscle engagement. All right, now we're going to move on to the calves. So plant your hips. And the foam roller goes right in between, right in the middle of the calf, right in the belly of it. We're going to begin here. Lift up and you can roll from the backs of your knees all the way to your ankles. If you like, if this is a lot of core work for you, you can come down to your elbows here and you can lift and roll right here. Now, if this is not quite enough, you can do the same. You can cross your feet here and lift and roll along your calves, angling all of your weight over your left calf. Lateral to get the lateral side of the gastrocnemius, medial to get that medial gastroc, or just right down the center in the belly of the soleus. You might give yourself a few little ankle circles here. Ooh, yeah. Let's do the same thing on the opposite side. Rolling all the way from the back of the knee down to the ankle. Rolling out those ankles as you find a good juicy spot. All right, hips come back to the mat. And now we're going to take this foam roller underneath our hips. The goal is to get it right at our tailbone. We found our tailbone earlier, so we know where it is. It's right below the sacrum. If our sacrum were on the foam roller, our pelvis would be tucked too much. So now we need to put our tailbone back against the foam roller, untucking the pelvis so that we have a lumbar curve. Now I'm going to cross my right foot over my left, and I'm going to shift my weight into my right hand. Left hand is going to come on top of the right foot. I'm going to angle my pressure toward the outside of the hip, and I'm going to begin rolling that outer hip from femur all the way up to sacrum, even up to pelvic ridge. To intensify this stretch, I can kick the top of my foot into my hand, this direction. So now I feel my outer hip light up, intensifying this loaded stretch. You can swing those hips a little forward toward the floor to work into gluteus medius, or you can angle hips up toward the ceiling, really sitting on the belly of the deep six muscles here, the piriformis, the obturators, the gemelles. All right, now we're going to switch sides. Rolling from the sacrum all the way to the head of the femur, kicking top of the foot into the hand. Playing with the angle of the pelvis to target different parts of the hip. All right, plant both feet. We're going to shift back over to the right-hand side. We're going to thread our right leg underneath our left so that now our left foot is flat on the floor. We're targeting the foam roller over a small muscle called the TFL. The TFL is short for tensor fascia lata, and it's the muscle of which the IT band is the tendon. So it's at the top part of the hip, just in between the head of the femur and the pelvic ridge. So we're working with just a few inches here, very narrow space. So I'm going to come all the way down to my elbow now, and I'm going to use my elbow just to push and pull me along that couple of inches of contact between the foam roller and the TFL. This is the best way to help people with IT friction syndrome. Runners and cyclists who tend to get that lateral knee pain, sometimes they'll spend a ton of time with these foam rollers really cranking on the side of the knee. And we're learning that that can actually be pretty counterproductive. There's a fatty pad underneath that IT band that will get inflamed, especially with lots of foam roller work, and it can increase symptoms of IT friction. But by releasing this muscle up here, you're naturally creating a little bit more availability of length and motion in the IT band. All right, now pick up your hips, the foam roller, about mid-thigh level, and you can lift your leg for a little bit additional pressure along the foam roller, or you can let it drag, whatever feels best to you. I'm gonna lift, and I'm gonna angle the foam roller along the lateral leg. Another fun fact, you cannot actually stretch the IT band. They did a really funny research project once where they took the IT band of a cadaver and they hung a VW bus over the side of a bridge just by somebody's IT band. And then they measured the IT band after hanging the bus over, and not only did it not break, it never actually stretched. It's very, very strong. Impossible for us to stretch in a human body. So the goal here is not to stretch the ITB. It's actually to create a little bit more conscious connection between the lateral leg and the brain. And we're really angling this more toward the vastus lateralis by shifting our hips forward slightly and getting that lateral quadricep now. Now I'm going to move upward so that my foot is now over the foam roller, and now I can get the bottom part of my vastus lateralis and lateral leg. I'm going to avoid any pressure directly over the side of the knee where that fatty pad lives, specifically because I have a little bit of IT friction and I don't want to increase inflammation there. So I'm going to stay just on the upper quadrant of the quadricep. If I wanted a little bit more here, I can always hold my foot back behind me and roll the outside of my leg this way. Ooh, yeah, that definitely intensifies things. And when you're ready, let go of that foot. Turn so that you're belly down, belly button toward the mat, forearms down on the floor. And now I can roll all the way from my knee to my hip flexors. To intensify this stretch, I'm going to come down just a little bit so you can still see me. When you're foam rolling, you tend to be all over the place. Now to intensify this stretch, I can bend my knee and I can just foam roll from the top of the knee all the way down to the hip flexor. Now I'm noticing to really get into the top of the rectus femoris, which flexes the hip. I'm going to put my leg down and use my toes. This is going to warm me up for the nice psoas stretch we're going to do in just a moment. All right. Now we're going to lift our hips, put the foam roller aside. You can sit down with your right hip and turn so that you're facing the front. Right, place the foam roller back underneath your thighs. We're going to sit with our tailbone first. And we're going to do all the same work that we did on the right side on the left by turning over to the left-hand side, stretching the left leg long, planting the sole of the right foot down on the floor. And now you can work the TFL on this left side. Remembering to play with the angles of your hips, finding any good juicy spot you can lift that leg to activate a little bit more. I like to turn my belly button down toward the ground and start to really get into that hip pocket area, the anterior TFL. All right, roll the foam roller a little bit further mid-thigh. We're going to begin rolling the lateral leg. When you're ready, we can target the lower lateral leg. And then turn your belly button face down. This is in yoga what we would call a lizard pose. And we're going to roll the quadricep. To intensify, you can pick that foot up. After a few rolls, place your foot back on the mat. We're going to lift our hips up again. Put that foam roller aside. Come back to a seat. Turn so that you're facing the front. And place the foam roller underneath your knees again. I'm going to rest all the way back and lift my hips so that now my upper back and my head are flush with the floor. My hips are ascending and in contact with the foam roller. Bring your right knee in towards your chest. Extend your left leg long. The more you pull your right knee in towards your chest, the more of a stretch you're going to feel along the left hip flexor. Keep your left toes active, spread them wide, straighten your leg. Imagine you're sending energy all the way out through your toes. And pull that right knee further in. On your inhale, straighten that leg, press energy out through your toes. On the exhale, let that leg be heavy and begin to slowly relax its way down toward the mat, feeling a stretch all through the psoas. You might even play with shifting your whole lower body as a unit over to the right or over to the left, feeling the area where your psoas, your hip flexors get the greatest stretch. It can be very subtle, just an inch over to my right, I feel more contact, more sensitivity. And I'm going to breathe right into that area, each exhale, allowing my leg to descend a little bit further toward the mat. Splay your right knee wide. Hand on the top of the inseam of the right knee. Press your right knee up into your hand and your hand into your knee. I feel this stretch in my groin. I can breathe here, or if I'd like a little more intensity, I can stretch my right leg out long and place my hand now on the mid-calf, pressing my whole leg up toward the ceiling now as I resist my leg down with my hand. Take a few breaths here. Each exhale, letting that leg be heavier and heavier toward the mat. Right knee bends, back toward chest. Plant both feet back on the floor. Left leg crosses over right. Left knee comes in toward the chest. Hold the knee and extend the right leg long. Each inhale, you are sending energy out through your toes, growing that leg an inch longer. And each exhale, you're letting that straight leg be heavy, descending toward the mat. You might even hold your knee in with one hand and with the other hand, kind of massage that hip flexor down. Let that left knee splay wide. Press your knee up into your hand into the knee for groin stretch. When you're ready for an intensification, you can straighten that left leg. Hand goes to the mid-calf. Inseam of the leg presses up toward the ceiling. And on the exhale, let that leg be heavy and extend down toward the mat. I'm still feeling a nice stretch in my right hip flexors, even as I stretch the left adductors. One more breath here. Bend the left knee. Left knee back to ceiling, both feet plant. Get rid of that bolster. Now tailbone down first. And lift your shoulders back and down. So I'm lifting up on my head, rolling the shoulders back and down. So now I've got a lot of space between my lumbar spine and the mat. Cross your right foot over your left ankle and hoist yourself up on your right hip and let your knees descend. So now my hips are in line with my head. Use your outer right ankle to press your left knee down to the mat. And now goalpost or cactus your arms, as we say in Texas. Look over your left shoulder for a twist. Inhale, grow that spine long. Exhale, twist. One more deep breath here. Slowly back towards center. Switch legs. Left foot over right leg. Hoist yourself up on that left hip. Drop the knees over to the left-hand side. Using the left foot to press the outer right knee down toward the ground. Cactus arms. Look over your right shoulder. Inhale. And exhale, twist. One more breath here. Roll back to center. Extend your knees and your shins toward the back of the room. You can clasp your outer foot with your hands, just like so, or you can hold onto your big toes with your peace fingers and rock from right to left, massaging the lower back, getting some movement back in your back and spine. Take any last little stretches that you like, extending right leg or left leg, maybe both. Both feet come back to the floor. Untuck your pelvis. Left legs extend long. And notice any changes in your body, any changes in the direction of energy or blood flow, any new feeling of enlivenment of your nervous system. Take in your practice. Assimilate. Right arm overhead. Roll onto your right hand side. Use your left arm to push yourself up to a seat. Everyone take a deep breath together. Open mouth, exhale. I hope you enjoyed your lower body foam roller class. I'll see you for the next sequence for the upper body foam roller, and I look forward to seeing you then.